Welcome to the Financial Freedom Secrets Show. This is your host, Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, helping business owners create financial freedom faster by mastering the language of money. Want to see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom? Complete our 40-point financial performance scorecard at wealthhealthcheck.com.au. That's wealthhealthcheck.com.au. The average score for most business owners is 18 out of 40. So complete the scorecard now and see how well you're tracking towards financial freedom. G'day guys, this is Jackson Milan, the Wealth Mentor, and we're here for another episode of the Financial Freedom Secrets Show. And I've got some new friends of mine joining us here. We've got Sarah and Aly from Spect. I've been introduced to them through my business partner, Jim, and we've been having conversations around scaling operations. When you're in a high growth business and you often hit these bottlenecks are typically around the operational inefficiencies. And we find ourselves as business owners constantly putting out fires as opposed to pursuing growth and profitability. So I wanted to get you both here to share your wisdom with our audience and hopefully help them get some breakthroughs. So thanks for joining us. How are you both doing?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Jackson.
So let's start with you, Sarah. Give us a bit of a lay of the land. Who are you and what's your experience leading up to Spect?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the UK, came over here, did not intend on staying here, to be honest. It was just meant to be 6 months traveling, ended up getting into recruitment, spent a lot of years. So I did like medical recruitment and then went tech after that and ended up starting my own business in a recruitment agency, which was just a great experience. Ended up having a bit of a flip on its head there and ended up into operations. And that's when I started working with a couple of companies actually setting up their infrastructure from scratch, really. And then from there, that's when I actually met Aly. We worked together at a scale-up consultancy, actually consulting in the operations space. And then, yeah, we decided to take it on and do it ourselves.
Beautiful, amazing. And Aly, what's been your background leading up to Spect?
Yeah, so I actually started off in marketing, so it was a very corporate background. It was a little bit soul destroying though. I was like, no, I wanted to get into more of the grassroots, more purpose-driven kind of startups. So I made the big jump, helped a few guys get started, ended up being the first team member of that scale-up consultancy, so built that up from scratch. So their operations and then the service side of it, so then consulting to the clients, and then I brought Sarah on board and we were like, yeah, this is something that a lot of businesses need, and they know that they need it when you talk to them, but it's just something that just doesn't get prioritized when it's thrown in with marketing and sales and all those other things. So yeah, to Sarah's point, we thought it needed to stand on its own 2 feet. So
makes sense. And it's definitely needed, right? Because this is the issue. The business owners don't prioritize working on this particular area, being operations, systems, processes, frameworks, ensuring that they've got the infrastructure for scale. Why do you think that is?
I think it's that, it's not seen as that kind of sexy revenue generating position. So, people understand sales, they understand marketing, all of that, and they can understand how that has a direct impact on their bottom line. But then where we come in on the operational side, we strongly believe that in the long run, it will have a massive effect on your revenue, but it's not so direct. And I think that people can push it back of, we'll deal with that next year. We'll deal with that next year. And all that means is that, the problems keep building and then they're harder to tackle. And then the harder they are to tackle, it's just that easier bit to push it further away. So yeah.
I think what business owners don't necessarily understand is that to increase your sales and your marketing, you actually need really strong operational infrastructure and underneath that. So you need the people and you need the systems to handle all those leads that come in and the customer support queries. So they actually go hand in hand, but they're treated very separately. So that's kind of what we aim to do is when we go in, we ask about business owners' goals for both their personal lives and their business, and then we work back from that. So we say, to achieve those goals, these are the operational changes that you need to make to set those foundations up to achieve them.
Makes sense. And Aly, when you speaking to those clients and you're analyzing their business, what are typically the biggest operational bottlenecks that you see?
Look, a lot of the time, one of them, for example, could actually be the business owner themselves.
Mm.
Maybe trying to wear all the hats and do everything, and maybe they're a little bit reluctant to hand the reins over to, you know, a team member. And so that's definitely something that we see time and time again. Sarah, what about from your view?
Yeah, I think it's just the case, like business owners, you obviously you start a business because you love your product, or you love doing the service that you're doing, but then very quickly you end up being a bookkeeper, being a marketer, being all of these things. And there's right at the start, do what you need to do, sort of thing. But then as the business grows, all you're doing is just holding your business back without outsourcing those things or without making the right hires. Because chances are you're not a very good bookkeeper, you're not a very good marketer, and there are people out there that can do it a lot better than you. And then you can just spend that time focusing on what you should be doing, basically growing your
Makes
business.
sense. And this can be super overwhelming, right? Because there's so many operational things that you could be focusing on at any particular point in time. What's the thought process and the strategy that goes behind choosing the right operational thing to optimize or focus on?
So I think it always comes back to the goals. So that really helps us, because then when we look at systems, okay, so what systems are going to support these goals? What is the team that we need to put in place to support these goals? So this is what the team looks like now. What does it need to look like in 1, 3, 5 years? What does the structure need to look like? Do we need to promote people? Do we need to get new people in with new skills? So it really comes back to those goals, and then we can easily assess the rest off the back of that. So for example, a lot of the business owners we speak to, they say, oh my gosh, I want to be able to take a holiday. I want things to be able to run without me. So like, great, with that brief, we need things to kind of run by themselves. We need to empower the team to make some decisions. We need to put some automations in so that, there's less touch points and less, physical, like manual entry of things. And we kind of just work back from there.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think this is the important part, that you need to get clear on the destination before we can work out the appropriate vehicles. And that's the hard part for so many business owners, that they're making decisions based on what's presented to them at that particular point in time without thinking about the grander plans, right, of what they're actually trying to achieve. And ultimately, business owners end up creating this job for themselves and end up becoming a prisoner to their business. We see it all of the time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, we go in so many times and there's all these disparate systems, and it's like, oh yeah, this person, they used that one before, so that's why we introduced this one, and we're on the free trial of this other one, so we need this other system to complement it, and that where they end up kind of doing things reactively. So when you take a step back, it's just a little bit of a mess. So rather than making intentional decisions around your operations.
Makes sense. And I guess the other part to this is really, most business owners might think that changing these operations can be super chaotic. So from the sounds of things, when you start working with a client, you get clear on the strategy and their goals of what they're trying to achieve, you identify the priorities. And then when it comes to kind of rolling out the operational initiatives, what's your process for supporting that to kind of minimize friction and to maximize the impact in the businesses that you're working with?
Yeah, so how we like to work with clients is to start with a goal setting workshop, and that's we love to bring the full team in on that. So it might be that we give questionnaires beforehand so we can get an idea of what the team think of their roles and where they want to be as individuals. Sit down and actually work out those goals together, and then from there we can then map out. It could be a year, 2 years, 3 years of exactly how we're going to achieve those things. And then from there, we can decide, well, if a system needs setting up, it might be better for us to just do that on the side. We can get it set up. We can import everything. We can set up all your automations, your integrations, and all of that. And then we just come in, train your team, and then kind of send them on their way. So there's certain things like that we can really set up very independently, and then actually just hand over the reins, rather than, half the time when, teams try to do it internally, they're doing a little bit on Friday afternoon and then they've forgotten about it until the following Wednesday, whereas they come in at it with it as a fresh perspective, really.
Yeah, so to Sarah's point, it's really important to involve them in that process, because then the team gets the buy-in and they get motivated as well. And we also find little gems throughout that process. So we also find, oh my gosh, this person's a customer service superstar. let's base some of their role around that. So we kind of, it gives us a really good insight into the team and how people work best and how to get the most out of them. And also, make them happier and more fulfilled in their roles too. So it's a win-win.
Makes sense. Great. And is there a certain size of business whereby this becomes really the main priority of the area that need to be focused, or are there other symptoms or telltale signs that that a business owner needs to be prioritizing this type of strategy and these kinds of initiatives in their business?
Oh, I'd say, to be honest, for us, it's mainly say about 5 to 50 employees is a good kind of point to be focused on that. Anything less than 5, it's again just a bit of a general rule, but less than 5, you're probably kind of going along and you're okay. But then once you hit 5, managing that many people and managing the operations for that many people starts to just get daunting. And then, if you've not got those systems in place, it can very, very quickly become chaotic. And then after that 50 mark is a general point where you probably just need somebody full-time, and you really need to focus on that as a full-time position, really.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Point as well is, especially when you're starting out or when you're just starting to grow, try to make operational decisions with. So the thing that Sarah and I used to always ask ourselves when we worked together in scale-up agency was, will this scale with us? If we put this system now, will it still serve us when we're 20 people, 30 people, 40 people? So just kind of having that mindset as you're making decisions rather than just choosing things that work for you now will definitely go a long way.
Yeah, I get you. And I think that's the thing as well, right? As you continue to grow, sure, you want to try and build that in, but systems are inevitably going to break and going to need to evolve and improve. So I think it's important to being nimble as well. And I think that's something that we've tried to prioritize as we've grown and scaled our business. That sometimes you just got to go back and rebuild things. And I think it's about having the support or the triggers to know when things need to be rebuilt as well. Because I'm sure you see all of the time businesses that are running on archaic systems and processes that no longer serve them, right?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of explain it as like, when we go in and do these kind of projects with people, it's a little bit like an elastic band. You just have to pull back and then you can project forward. But if you don't do that, the company becomes stagnant, and you actually can't have that growth that you need.
Yeah, so to Sarah's point, when we say pull back, we mean you're taking that time to document the processes, document job descriptions, get everything on paper. And yet it might feel really like laborious to do that. And oh my gosh, I don't have the time, it's going to take me ages. But, when it comes to onboarding new hires, that process becomes so much smoother because they've just got a document that they can refer to, and you don't need to, sit with them every time. So investing that time up front will save you a lot of time down the track. And Jackson, I know you mentioned triggers. So for us, a really good trigger for operations is if you get to a point where, you're spending way too much time on admin. If, we've talked to clients and they're like, oh my gosh, like admin is my whole job. That's a red flag. And that's when you need to be looking at your operations, because nothing should be taking you that long in admin that it's taking up a lot of your time. So that's where we talk about integrations and automations and just making things a bit quicker.
Makes sense. Look, even we've found that ourselves, and we see this in our clients. If you get stuck in the low value tasks, there's no time for the stuff that actually propels you forwards.
Yeah.
Operations are super important, but that's like working in the business stuff, right? And we all know the cliche, you got to make more time to work on your business. But like in your experience, as a percentage, on average, before your clients work with you, how much time are owners really spending on growing their business when they're stuck in the chaotic operations?
Sometimes such low percentages, honestly. I mean, we're talking to business owners at the moment, and they're still in the position of, if they're visiting a customer, they're doing the text beforehand of, we're coming to site now, and all things like that just eat into your day and eat into your mindset, to be honest, because you're just so logged down with all of this admin, writing out quotes all individually because things aren't automated, systems aren't there to actually support you. So then when it gets to the end of the day, they're like, oh, I just need to clock off for the day, or I just need to do 10 more quotes. Like, there's not actually that time to be excited about the business and excited about the growth, because you're doing admin and that's...
It feels like everyone's just keeping afloat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we love that when we can come in and we can have those, goal setting workshops. We kind of see the spark, come back into the business owners and inject that new life in the business, because they're so bogged down in that day to day. They think, oh yeah, this is why I started a business, or this is, oh yeah, I can grow and I can make more money or hire more people. Or so yeah, it's really rewarding, that part of the job.
And it sucks when you're stuck in that, because you can't see the light through the trees, and it's so soul crushing, because this is just the mundane, boring, let's face it, sometimes horrible stuff that we just really don't want to do. It's not why we got into business in the first place.
Yeah, not
Why
at
do you
all.
think so many founders box themselves into these things, and this ultimately becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy? Like they almost escape a corporate environment or an employed environment to get out of doing this crappy work, only to find themselves back into it again. Like, what do you think's the driver for that?
I think it's the I can do it all mentality, in which we see a lot. It's, it's sometimes it's hard to ask for help, but the businesses that we find are really successful, like they're not afraid to outsource things or say, I know I'm not good at this. I need someone to do it for me. So that's when people start letting go, and finding superstars who are really good at those things really helps.
Makes sense. And holding on to these things for longer than we need to is often a common trait for business owners. What's the process that goes into trying to get them to relinquish that control, hand over that responsibility, start removing themselves as a bottleneck?
I think initially, sometimes it comes down to cost. So I think some business owners, they're like, oh, I can save money by doing this marketing campaign by myself. And when you actually talk it through and say, well, you're a cost to the business. How much is your hourly rate? If it's going to cost to pay somebody else 5 hours to do this marketing campaign, is the business actually going to end up spending 15 hours paying you to do that same marketing campaign, and it's not going to be as good, sort of thing. So we try to have these conversations around, your time is so valuable. And then if you take that to the next step, then if that's going to take you 15 hours, what success could you have if you actually spent that 15 hours investing into your business and actually helping it grow, improving your product, and actually working on the business? So we try to have those kind of conversations with people and just understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, and getting back to the driver of why you started a business in the first place. It wasn't to do the admin, probably wasn't to do the bookkeeping, it wasn't to do the marketing. Try to hand those things over, so then to actually allow the business to grow.
Makes sense. Yeah. And I think it's just about coming to terms with that, making that that acceptance. I know it's been hard for me. I had a good friend of mine say to me that business growth is about enduring the thousands of ego deaths that come along the way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it. It's very much a mindset game of just trusting in your team, right? And being able to relinquish control. And people are going to make mistakes, but it's not the end of the world. This isn't, in most of the cases, it's not a life or death situation, right? They're pretty minor mistakes, if any.
Yeah, I think if anything as well, like, you see that it is your baby. So I think sometimes if you're the business owner and you make a mistake yourself, you can forgive it. But then if there's other people around you, you almost just always think that you can do better sometimes. So it's just trying to like have that shift in mindset, really.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I
So
think
for many, jump in, Ali. Yeah.
Oh, you just can't grow. That's the other thing. Like you just, as much as you've got good intentions and you want to be across everything, you just can't physically grow the business if you're trying to take that all on yourself.
100%. You're only one person. There's only so much you can do. So that's very important. Now, for many of our clients, they have an office manager or a practice manager or an operations manager or general manager or whatever the title may be. And they may be thinking, well, this is what I employed that person to do. And I'm sure you've encountered a lot of these kinds of managers, these middle managers in organizations. How often are they really doing this kind of work on the business process optimization stuff as part of their core role? Or is it that they're actually caught up in the business as usual and just putting out fires, that they aren't really doing this kind of work? What's your perspective on that?
Oh, 100% the latter. So before Sarah joined me at the Scale Up Consultant, that was me. I was in the day-to-day. I was, raising invoices, running the team, all these kind of things. So when I got Sarah in, she was like, why are you using this project management software over this one? This one's, so much better. Do everything. Like, so you're just keeping things going when you're in that role. And I've got so much respect for the person in that role, by the way, because it is not an easy role, and you're the go-to for everything. You just become the person that, the whole office relies on just for every kind of random query. So they're probably spending their days answering all these questions, making things run smoothly. So I completely understand that they don't have that capacity to be able to look at things objectively and say, how can I improve this? And I guess that's where kind of Sarah and I come in with that fresh lens, when we can just look at how things are running. Oh, there's a better way of doing that.
I
It's
think
always
that's
just,
important.
yeah, just getting that fresh perspective is so important. Even when it comes to the goal setting and moving things forward, if you've worked with a team for X amount of years, you've got that kind of preconceived idea of what they want, what you've made assumptions about them. Whereas when we go into a team, we ask these questions and we say, what motivates you? Do you want a pay rise, or do you want Friday afternoons off? Do you want more flexibility in your work? Do you just want a thank you and a well done and you've done a great job? Some people are really, really motivated by that instead. So all of these things, we come in with just a very unbiased, fresh perspective, ask the questions, and then try to, we make those recommendations and we help the team to achieve those goals based on that, rather than being kind of stuck in the trenches, fixing the printer and the rest of the things that usually those kind of office managers end up doing.
Yes, it's always the kind of squeaky wheel that gets the oil, right? And it's always these kind of not important but urgent things that take the majority of our time, where we should be focusing on the important but not urgent stuff of how do we get ahead of those problems. And I think that's the hardest part about being in a role like that. I definitely sympathize with our COO, Nadia, who handles a lot of that kind of stuff, and trying to elevate her and surrounding her with the right people that can do the low value tasks so she can be more strategic. But I definitely advocate for bringing in experts like yourselves who can bring that fresh set of eyes, go through everything with a different perspective, create the new frame, the new strategy, and then potentially even leave the team to implement, which is really what organizations need. You need that fresh perspective. That's where you grow.
I think on that end as well, it's also that accountability as well, because sometimes, again, if it's quite a forward-thinking company, they have those goal-setting sessions, and everyone gets excited, and then it just tails off. Whereas where we come in as well is that accountability, that follow-up of, we said that this was going to happen by the end of Q3. Why has it not happened? Was it too ambitious, or do we need to rejig it, or did the team just not do it? So it's that accountability as well from an external source rather than everything being in-house. I think that's really useful as well.
Makes a lot of sense. So we've talked a little bit about the ideal client. And I think from anybody who's listened to this, they've probably kind of got some things that have basically labeled them. This is me. This is where I'm at right now in business. But how would you describe an ideal client that you're looking to work with? So they've got 5 to kind of 50 staff or thereabouts. What are the other kind of indicators of your ideal clients?
So a lot of our clients are specifically in the service industry. And yeah, so it's somebody really that's just taking that, too much admin during their day, that we can actually go in and help to automate things, optimize things. It's once they've got to that point that, we can then go in, and I feel like that's the point where we can make the biggest difference to actually create a fresh start, and then also go in and set those goals and actually figure out what do we actually want to achieve. So yeah, there's a little bit of rescue in there, but then also the moving forward section as well.
Fantastic, great. And how long does a typical engagement work with your clients? Is it normally project-based, or is it ongoing? How does that typically structure?
So we like to start just at first with the goal setting workshop, just because then that gives us a really good roadmap and kind of gets us to go into things. So we can say, based off your goals, you're actually moving in the right direction, and we'll just put some, KPIs in for the team, and, that's sweet. Otherwise, there could be, really ambitious goals that need a lot of, operations fine tuning to get there. So in that case, it might be a bit of a retainer to help them get there. Otherwise, we do spit out a bit of a roadmap with those goal setting workshops. So, if they do have those resources in-house, they can also make those operational changes themselves if they have the capability.
Perfect. I love it. Fantastic.
Yeah, these things they can turn into a retainer, or they can then turn into projects as well of like, we're going to be in your business, we're going to be there for the next like 2 months, we're going to set up X, Y, and Z systems, we're going to come in, we're going to train your team, they're going to be absolutely loving it, all happy with the systems, and then we leave and you can go for gold. There's a bit of a mixture, and it depends on how they like to operate. Some companies would prefer that retainer because they want that accountability long term, and then others want a system set up or want something sorting, training, and just get them to the point where they can run with it, and then we're on our way. So yeah, there's kind of the two main ways.
Perfect. I love it. So if anybody's listened to this or watched this and they're interested to chat with you ladies about how they can get some operational help, a little bit of lifeline, the strategy, the roadmap, the support, how are they best to get in touch with you both?
Yeah, so we're on LinkedIn and Instagram. So yeah, LinkedIn is just an aspect page, or you can search us individually. So Aly Nicolau or Sarah Clayton.
Beautiful. We'll include the links in the show notes. And if each of you had to give one last pearl of wisdom to summarize our chat today that people can take away and go and chew on, what would you share?
I'd say to try and not get the operations of your business too far that it's too much of a rescue mission. Kind of like we said before, if we set these things in early enough, then it's not too much of an issue to actually run with it long term. So identifying those flags when they're more at an amber rather than a red, and then we can set up the systems to actually grow with the business.
Great advice. How about you, Aly?
For mine, again, I sound like a broken record, but it comes back to those goals. And it's not just your business goals, but your personal ones. So if you know that you only want to work in the business 1 day a week, or you only want to work on a certain part of the business, if you want to make sure that you take the kids to school or that you come home for lunch, make sure you build that into your business goals as well. And we can structure the operations so that you can make that happen for yourself.
Great advice. I think we need to be a broken record on this stuff because we get caught up and we don't think about these goals as often as we'd like. So we harp about that all day, being in the wealth and the profit space. It's so important. So I'm glad we're aligned there. Ladies, I appreciate you making the time. And guys, if you've watched or listened to this and you've got some good ideas, remember a good idea in principle just remains a good idea until you implement it. So go and take some action. If you want some help, reach out, and look forward to helping you get this dialed in. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time.